Greetings and welcome, people. I'll get straight down to it today because if I don't, this could end up being a very long vlog. I don't think any of us want that, now do we? No, we don't. And there's some rather iffy clouds coming up, so this ride may get cut short. But anyway, coming up for 2 weeks ago, I put Babe in for its annual roadworthiness inspection. Here in the UK it's called the MOT. In other places it's called simply inspection. In Germany it's called a TÜV, TÜV. And it's just basically the same idea, checking various safety and legal related aspects of the vehicle. Same for cars. And every road going vehicle has to go through one of these every year, 3 years after its first registration. But anyway, I put Babe in thinking this should be straightforward, no issues. I had basically not changed anything on the bike since the last MOT, which it passed with absolutely no comments or advisories. The last time I put it through I was a bit concerned that it might fail on the back brake because the back brake was acting up a little bit. But a few weeks before the MOT, as I mentioned in one of my recent vlogs, I had finally got to the bottom of the problem with the back brake and fixed it, and it is working beautifully. Oop, clunk clunk. And I had also given the front calipers, brake calipers, a good clean up and checked pads and everything on there, and that all looked hunky-dory. So I was anticipating a straightforward, clean pass, and I was wrong. And it was something that I had not changed since the last MOT. It was exactly the same. Now, one thing that anybody who's got a bike with a single headlight will probably be aware of, especially an older bike, you'll be aware that the illumination from that single headlight can be less than, well, illuminating. It can be a bit lacking. And what with Babe being a 28-year-old machine with a wiring loom that's 28 years old, as you can imagine, there are voltage losses everywhere. Now, obviously, with it being a single headlight, that has to accommodate the high and low beam, or as I call it, the main beam and the dip beam in the one bulb. So that means it's an H4 halogen type bulb. H stands for halogen. And they work on 12 volts or more. Now, I noticed that the front headlight on the halogen was getting very dim indeed. Even with the engine running and with like 13.5, nearly 14 volts at the battery, the bulb connector at the front of the bike, I was only seeing something like 11 volts, 11.2, something like that. It may even have been lower. It was a while ago I tested it now. So I thought, well, that's not very good, because obviously halogen being an incandescent type bulb, oh, excuse me, where the light is generated by a very brightly glowing coil of wire. Oh, hello, what's going on up here? That is very, oh great, very voltage sensitive. Obviously the higher the voltage, the brighter the bulb is going to glow. The lower the voltage, conversely, the dimmer it will be. So obviously, as the voltage at the headlight connector, the bulb connector, was very low, it wasn't reaching its optimum output, light output. So I thought, well, either I rewire the entire bike or I go for an LED type bulb, because LED bulbs generally work on a voltage range from 9 to, or anything up to 32 volts, and produce the same sort of light output whatever the voltage is in that range. So I thought that would be ideal. So I purchased an LED bulb and stuck it in, and yay, it was lovely, bright light. Problem solved. Now what I hadn't realised is that someone had decided it was actually illegal to retrofit, or should I say upgrade light fittings meant for incandescent type halogen bulbs or any other bulbs, any light that is outwardly facing, i.e. front and rear lights, indicators, that sort of thing. Actually illegal to replace those with LED bulbs, and that was the case for a while. And so when the MOT inspector pointed out problems with my headlight at the test the other week, I thought, oh no, here we go. This is going to be because of the LED bulb. Well, in a sense it was, but it wasn't. Now what I found out is that the law regarding fitting LED bulbs or even HID upgrade systems was changed last year in March. So basically the situation now is you will not automatically fail, or your vehicle will not automatically fail, simply through having an LED or HID bulb. We call it a bulb, it's a generic term I'm going to use. Generic. But it will fail if the adjustment of the headlight, or if the beam pattern produced by the bulb and headlight combination breaches the requirements set down by the MOT. And those requirements have been in place for a long time, and basically they are intended to protect other drivers from being blinded and dazzled by oncoming the headlights of oncoming vehicles. So the LED bulb itself wasn't the problem, it was the adjustment. Now basically the bulb I had installed, I had adjusted it when I first installed it, but the adjusting collar had come a little bit loose and the bulb had rotated. So light from the headlight was being projected into areas on the test board where no light was permitted. And that was why it failed. So basically you had to take the LED bulb out, because I didn't have the necessary stuff to adjust it, and fit the standard halogen bulb, and that was it, job done, it passed. That was the only issue. So that got me thinking. That was when I got back home and started doing a bit of research and found this change back in March of last year that removed this automatic failure for having an LED or HID bulb in a halogen designed installation. A lot of that was because of years past, people were fitting, in order to get more light out of their headlights, they were fitting things like night breaker bulbs, and some of these were 100 watt bulbs, whereas the standard H4 is 55 watt, so they're basically running at twice the output of the standard bulb. And if your headlight fitting was plastic, there was a very good chance it would melt. or if your wiring system wasn't up to the load of the 100-watt bulb, your bulb connector or your wiring could melt or even catch fire. So obviously these regulations were brought in for a reason, but when they were brought in, LED bulbs weren't really a thing, and if there were any around, they were absolutely rubbish. I know I've got one of the early ones and it was terrible. So that again got me thinking on what are the main problems with fitting LED bulbs. I'll talk about LED. I don't know about HID. I've never used any of those. If you've used HID, you may have a different view. I don't know. Oh, nice old Rover, very nice. Of course, it is Goodwood Festival of Speed this weekend, so there should be some interesting machinery around. Yes, LED bulbs, they have come a long way, as I've found out, and a lot of them are now made to very closely mimic the physical layout of the filaments in an H4 halogen bulb, in the placement and coverage within the setup, so that they can actually now generate a beam very, very close to an H4 halogen bulb, just brighter. Now there's several aspects of upgrading your headlight bulb, and I'm going to get rained on in a minute, I can see it. In my view, there are three factors involved in why they brought in these regulations about bulbs, which obviously are to do with safety, and mainly based around not dazzling drivers going in the other direction. Now obviously the first thing is headlamp adjustment and aiming. Now we've all probably seen cars going in the opposite direction, and as they come towards us you think, why has he got one light on main beam or high beam and one light on dip beam or low beam? And of course you realise that there's something wrong with the headlights on that car, that one of the lights is pointing in the wrong direction. You give them a flash with your headlights to say, hey, you've got a light that's too high. They flash their lights, and that means that the headlight that is currently showing as low suddenly comes on high, and you realise that they were on dip beam. They just had a headlight out of adjustment. The other reasons for that could be accident damage or ham-fisted installation of bulbs that have caused the headlight fitting to be out of position. So headlight adjustment and bulb adjustment in the case of the LED bulb on Babe. The other thing, of course, is bulb brightness. Now this is usually measured in lumens, and I found out in my searching that a standard halogen bulb working at its optimum capacity, now what did it say it produces? I think it was something like 1800 lumens. And of course you can get these LED bulbs that, what are you waiting for? That produce multiple thousands of lumens, 3,000-4,000 lumens, so they are a lot brighter, but with a lot lower loading on the electrical system. So, oh hello, it is starting to rain. Oh great, typical. I think I'm going to need to turn around and go back. I've only got my mesh jacket on. So, yes, brightness of the bulb. But then we come on to what I think is the critical factor in how much oncoming drivers can be dazzled by your headlight. Your headlight can be perfectly aligned with a reasonable output level of lumens and still be dazzling. And one thing a lot of people have said about the sudden onset of people fitting LED bulbs is that the light hurts their eyes. Now that's not just the brightness. As I've previously alluded to, yes, most LED bulbs are significantly brighter than halogen bulbs. Ugh, too high again. Sorry, babe. But the main problem is the colour of the light. Now, you probably noticed over the last few years, headlights have become more blue in their colour. In years gone by, or in older vehicles, you see the headlight and it'll look slightly yellowish in tint. It's not a full-on yellow light, but yellowish, a bit like this bike coming towards us at the moment. And that is to do with what is called the temperature of the output of the bulb, the light output of the bulb. Now, most halogen bulbs operate in the temperature range of about 3,500 to 4,000 K, which is definitely at the yellower end of the visible light spectrum. That's more what they call warm light, which is more like natural daylight. Many LED bulbs that you will see listed for sale will be specified as being anything from about 5,000 K to 6.5 or more thousand K. Now obviously if you look on a colour chart, and I'll try and find one and put it in the on the screen in a minute. Five and a half to 6 or 6,500 K is very much in the blue end of the visible light spectrum, and it is that what they call it, ice white, or what are the other, cool white, blue light, that is the more dazzling. But of course, people being what they are, they will tend to want to buy the best, the biggest, the highest numbers, whatever. They will buy an LED bulb with the most lumens and the highest colour temperature because they think that will give them the best illumination in front of their vehicle, and it probably will. But it will also significantly dazzle drivers of vehicles coming towards them. So what I have decided to do is I am going to stay with my LED bulb for now, but I am going to source, and this is where it's going to get a bit tricky, I'm going to source a good quality H4 LED bulb closer to the 3,000 to 4,000 K colour temperature area. Now I don't want to go down to the very yellow area. If you're as old as me, you'll probably remember seeing cars driven by people that like to go over onto European mainland, continental Europe for holidays and touring or whatever, and their headlight lenses were painted yellow, obviously a transparent yellow, not painted with yellow house paint. It was to change the colour, obviously, of the light, because that was pretty much what was legal over in mainland Europe at the time. So obviously the idea that the yellower light is less dazzling, and also if you ever look to find some driving glasses, not corrective lens glasses, just general driving glasses. What are you waiting for now? Oh, it's a learner, sorry. They will actually have a pale yellow lens. Again, changing the colour of the light entering the eye to the yellower part of the spectrum reduces dazzling. It's simple. So yes, I'm going to find a suitable H4 LED bulb and get that installed. I think I found one that claims to work at 4,300K, which I think is probably about as close as to the yellow end of the spectrum as I would like to get. You can get some bulbs that are 3,000 and they do look very yellow. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I've found some on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description if it lets me, or I'll put an item number at the bottom of the screen if you want to go and look it up. Of course, this is Amazon UK, and of course all these considerations and ideas are relevant to the UK driving experience. I believe that it is only the UK that has removed this regulation that any LED or HID fitment is illegal. I think it still is the case in the EU. I'm not sure what the laws and regulations are where you are, but it's one of those things that it's not a problem until somebody spots it, I don't think. So of course if your headlight is poorly adjusted and too bright and etc., and you're running an LED bulb, you'll be fine until you dazzle a police officer driving the other way and he decides to pull you over and find out why your headlight is so dazzling. Of course, another factor to consider with motorcycles is that generally motorcycle headlights are somewhat higher up than most car headlights. Obviously in America you guys have got your massive trucks where the headlights are pretty much up at literally head level, or not far off anyway. But as I say, especially here in the UK and in Europe, where the cars generally are much smaller and lower, bike headlights are that much higher, then yes, I think while wanting to have as much headlight output as possible for my safety, I think that also has to be balanced against the safety of other road users as well. Obviously if you dazzle an oncoming driver, there's every chance that he or she might swerve and take you out or take someone else out. So I think it's basically, my philosophy would be to try and go for the optimum light output, brighter than standard halogen, but closer in colour temperature to a standard halogen, without being too yellow, and I think I may have found exactly the right thing for that, and like I said, I'll link it in the description. And also when I've got one and got it installed, I will do a test ride and hopefully capture some video for it. So now I've nearly got back home, the weather is improving again. Oh well, I'll go for another bit of a spin. So yes, but after fitting the H4 bulb at the test centre, oh sorry about shouting, test centre, babe passed the test. So now I just need to get on, do an oil and filter change, which I'm hoping to do when I get home. That was another reason for this ride, was to get the engine thoroughly warmed up and circulating, dump all that oil, and get nice new oil and filter in there. So I think I'll call that the end of this particular vlog. Got an idea for another one to do, but I don't think I'll do that today. I've got, as I say, I've got the oil and filter change to do. So I'll just say thank you very much for stopping by and taking a look. Hope you're all doing well, and I'll speak to you again on the next video. Cheerio for now. Bye.